Hey there.
Hey, Chad.
Hey, I'm really glad that we were able to connect. Um, and I don't know, I just saw it like you kind of just popped up out of nowhere. It seemed like, and and then I got to listening to some of the stuff you were doing, and I thought, and this guy's speaking some of my language, and and I and I really like that. I'm initially very cautious or like suspicious of new folks, and this is something I noticed in myself while doing engaging in this sort of stuff, so, and I don't know what exact character defect that's tied to inside of me, but I'm sure it's tied to something. So
I don't know if it's a defect and if it is, I've shared as well. So it's
sure.
I'm hesitant to trust, right? So that basically means that maybe I wasn't raised in an environment where trust comes easy. Maybe there wasn't a lot of people who deserved trust. So I'm hesitant to trust. So
Sure. No, I get that. I think I was like desperate to trust you, to trust people. You know what I mean? Like I really wanted to be accepted a lot. And that was, you know, the thing about a character and a character defect is I think inside of every character defect, there's a natural something that's good. And the problem is it gets distorted. And when that becomes, in the driver's seat, and then that defect becomes like can become a poison, and that starts to distort other relationships and stuff. So yeah.
I like to imagine that, like, if you have something, like, you can look at it either side. If you look at something and you think you're really good at something and you're arrogant and proud, there's probably something behind it that is your weakness. And similarly, if you're saying that you have a defect, there's probably something behind that is a strength. Like, I think
Sure.
they come together. I think
Oh, absolutely.
and maybe there's more than one hiding behind it, whatever it is.
No doubt. I mean, no doubt. Yeah, this is, I hate to use the word balance because I'm not sure if that's the right uh characterization of this thing, but it's like um it's something like balance. I don't know. It's um like I can get out of balance if I'm leaning too hard into one particular mode of thinking, whether it's like I'm too good or I'm too bad. Like you said, part of it's true, but when it becomes lopsided and it's like, and then it kind of can distort my perception of the world and my place in it, and um, and like if you're like me, I lived like that for so long that my vision and the way that I was seeing the world was just normal to me.
Yeah,
But
I can't, I don't know if I can relate to your situation exactly, but I've experienced moments and like long periods of long, I would say, months at a time where um, I've definitely felt off. I like to think that I've felt good, but it seems like I agree with this idea that you seem to get used to whatever it is. Like, just when I was a kid, I had terrible stomach pains, and I remember the first time I had them, it was like an irritable bowel, and I'd go lay in bed and I would be crying, and I remember telling my brother, I'm only like 6 or 7 years old, it's like, if this just continues, I don't know if I'm going to be able to live, because it just hurts so bad. But it never went away for years, and I got used to it, and it just became the new normal. So
yeah.
you kind of adapt to the pain or whatever state you're experiencing. We're pretty resilient in that way.
Oh yeah. Yeah. I'm pretty. I could be pretty stubborn. I could be like a donkey in a hailstorm. I'll just hunker down and take it for a while. And then like the one wrong thing happens, and then I just like snap. Or but then I'm also very strange too, because like sometimes the most inconspicuous thing that I see or I experience can be very tender, and it can make me weep. So it's really weird. Like I don't know. It's probably a chemical imbalance, but I don't really like characterizing it as that, because there's something really beautiful about it. And I'm very grateful for the moments to be able to have those kind of more emotional moments. I'd rather have them than not, I guess.
Yeah.
Because like when I'm going along, just kind of just like stone faced, like kind of dry and like not angry, but but just kind of like stale, and that being that for too long can be very scary for somebody like me internally, because I think something's not right. you know I'd rather be able to sit down and, excuse me, like see like I don't know, like some random commercial on TV, and then be pushed over the edge and pushed into tears. I think that there's such wonderful connection in those moments, and I've been that way forever, for as long as I can remember. Like I remember watching the movie La Bamba when I was like, 6 years old, and weeping at the end when his Richie's brother's on the bridge there, and he says, "Richie," and I'm like 6 years old and I'm bawling, and like, what is that,
Yeah.
But
I definitely get tears, but it's probably interesting. What is the question would be like, well, what are the moments that make you tear up and say, like, I haven't seen that movie, but I always tear up in like I tear up in a hero story whenever the hero is able to make a sacrifice to end up really being of service. It resonates with me. It's kind of the thing I crave.
oh yeah,
Even in a cartoon, even in an action movie, in any of them, there's so many of them I'll be watching a kids movie with my kids and I'll be like teared up crying because
oh yeah,
there's a hero who just was trying his best and ended up working out, because there's probably heroes that try their best and maybe it just there's something like I've thought of, like a good death, right? Like some people might say like Jesus's death wasn't like maybe they'd be scared of that kind of death, but if you were given the opportunity to just save one person you love and go through that hell, that torment, it's like, I mean, that might get you through it. I'm sure it's terrible, but having a good death to me, that would be better than just like a meaningless death. My mom died whenever I was 2 in a car accident, and say,
really,
yeah, it's like that kind of death just is like it's a low point. Like and I would like to have a good death. I'd like to have a good life. I'd like to have a long, and I would like to be of service to people for a long amount of time. I don't want to die anytime soon, but a good death would be nice. But I don't. It's
yeah.
interesting to question what makes you tear up and what really kind of connects with you. What stories connect with you and which narratives connect with you.
Oh, absolutely. And on that, I'm very open to strange ideas. So, like even and I hope I don't come across. I'm not saying this is in an insensitive manner, but and I'm sure you've heard this tripe stuff before, where somebody says, "Well, everything happens for a reason," right? And I don't know if I agree with that. I don't know if I disagree with it either.
Yeah.
Right. But there seems to be a building block in the hero that you are trying to become, right? And like the painful low spot that you talk about, losing your mother, like it's not in vain. I don't think it's without it's supreme meaning. You know what I mean?
The thing is you can read into these things. Yeah, Jordan Peterson got famous for, one of the things he got famous for in this corner, right, is to reading the Bible, his biblical series, and he reads into it, and it's almost like you can read into anything any way you want to, and it ultimately comes down to like a faith or a belief. And then I really like one of the most important things that he talks about is in his podcast with Sam Harris where they're talking about truth, and it's the thing. It's something I had come across is like our beliefs are powerful, and I recognize that I could, by choosing the right belief, I could empower myself. And so believing that, that my story that included tragedies, which some people might say they're tragedies, they don't have to be labeled a tragedy. Like you can give it any kind of label you want to, and you can kind of you can see it the way you want to, and it can build you up if you have the right beliefs and make you the best version of yourself, right? And then that way it's true. It doesn't have to be objectively true, but it can be the kind of truth that is useful and pragmatic.
Right. Well, that's why the objective stuff, and I kind of struggle with those terms because I don't fully know what objective or subjective means. I've used them, but I don't think they're not pertinent to my personal experience with this stuff, really. When I use these, it's like I'm more interested in what is the rubber meets the road, right? So like, like either way, you're going to view your story a particular way. Whether you choose to ignore it, whether you choose to say it was bad, or whether you choose to say it was good. So it's like you have an option on how you would like to maybe view your story. So it may be difficult to see the good or the heroic moments of it, or like your past, right? Like say we'll just stay on the one that we're on here with your mother. I mean, it may take a lot of work to be able to find, well, what is the supreme good here, and because we already can see how it's like bad, right? That's the easiest thing I think in the world to find is how something is bad, and how something isn't useful. And so and if you're like me, I've spent my whole life being able to acknowledge and point out the bad and dwell on the bad and see where the bad is. And so I've taken a lot of work to put a lot of stock into trying to find where the good is, because it's just, to me, the bad is a given. It's a given. It's already there. So it takes more of an effort to extract the good out of it. And this is why it's so important to me, because there's already so much bad out there. And, it's easy. It's the easiest thing.
I think I've been like the opposite of you, the inverse of you to some degree, like on our stories, like from what I'm hearing and what I've learned about you. But like I was for a long time, the naive person who didn't believe there was evil. I was like, and that bad things don't happen. People make bad choices. I'm learning that, I'm learning to be less naive, and I definitely I'm seeing there are people who are just willing to sacrifice other people. I talked to Chris this morning, and he wants to talk about calling out evil, and I really have to focus on it to try to do it. But I can definitely, I've done it, and that's one thing. Like if you think the world's good, you can think that you're good, and then you end up hurting people out of your ignorance in your wrong view, right?
Right. No, I love
hurt people because of my naivety.
Yeah, I love what Chris is doing. I think the questions that he's challenging us with are important ones. I think it'd be easy. It has been easy for folks to kind of brush some of these questions off for a really long time. So I think the fact that he's been, I think respectful of the process of this thing, of asking these questions, and I like the different approaches he's used on asking the question. I think I think it's important, and because like I talk with Chris off video probably once a week. I'll send a little message, good morning, have a good day, like corny stuff like that. But I think that what he's doing is important, and he's allowed me to challenge myself in where I stand on stuff, so Yeah. The thing about the evil thing, it's like, for me, it's doing, everybody does this. I think everybody calls out evil to a degree, so it's unavoidable. I think it's wise to be more, for me, it's wise to try to be more balanced, and more aware of uh, keeping it right size, because I don't want it to be the most important thing I do shouldn't be calling out evil. I don't think so.
Yeah, I know whenever, like, I try to pay attention to like the thoughts and emotions that emerge within me, and I thought about what happened when I was thinking about, those who I wanted to look down on, right? The one look down on the most, um, and like there's a trap there. It can pull you into like this the anger and fear and like a spirit of revenge, and like you can really start working out ways to do violence toward these people that you are looking down on, to really punish them. And so it can be a slippery slope in that regard for me. And so I intentionally rejected it, just as um, like I was seeking like a way of being that, like, I wanted to be happy and I wanted peace. And I didn't even know I wanted peace until I found it. Right. And then part of that process for me was really identifying those, like I had identified the fruit of the Holy Spirit, like without the religious part, without the reading of the Holy Scripture. And I found it and I loved it. And so it like, to me, I proved it was right just through my exploration and the rejection of the other spirits that they can go alongside calling out evil and condemning people. So I've been very careful about it as well. I heard that it sounded like you were trying to be careful about it, and like I think we are similar in that regard. That I think we you maybe I got the sense that you are careful about it because you know where it has taken you, and I kind of resonate with that experience as well. I know where it can take my mind. So
That's exactly correct. I'm cautious of it, mostly because I feel like I can do it better than those who claim they can do it the best.
yeah.
And I could take a spiritual principle, like I wouldn't even say calling out evil is a spiritual principle. Actually, I would say trying to live spiritually right is, there's some principles that do that, but I've taken spiritual principles or spiritual tools and you wielded them as weapons, and that just is not good. Like I've, this is, I think, how a lot of Christianity has gotten itself into some of the mess that it has, is being holier than thou and this and that. And it's like, and at the end of the day, it's like the evil that one can call out becomes arbitrary then, because like my evil might not be the same category or definition as, say, yours or the next guy's or the next guy's. So then it's just, and that's why I think it's going to happen. People are going to do this. They're going to call out the evil, but I'm more interested in how are we going to live well. I think that should be that. Okay, so here's the hierarchy. Let's see if I can try this once. The hierarchy should be something like love God and serve others. Those are kind of the same thing, right. And they're right there near the top. I really don't know what can go higher than that, to be honest. And I'm gonna fail hitting that mark. I might come close to it often. I might barely graze my finger on it, but that's a daily process, a daily thing to reach for. Below that is something like trying to live well. And again, all of this stuff is aimed, all of these other things should be actually Um, uh, again, aimed at the top one.
Right.
So living well is still aimed at trying to be useful, loving God and being useful to others. So as we move down the hierarchy, it's always about trying to do that. So
Right.
calling out evil is somewhere down, way down here.
There's probably moments where, you know, people could say, you know, Gavin was a coward, and when I could have said or done something different, and had the courage to do it. Those moments are rare. And that I do know that by focusing on evil, like in my head, it changes who I am. It changes the kind of husband I am, or the kind of father I am. And so it actually, like, it changes my spirit. It changes it. So it changes my ability to have good relationships with other people. So I'm careful about it. But I've tended to be the person who does not get in fights. The person who has, you know, I've been, you know, slapped in the face in front of dozens of people, you know, by someone who was drunk and wasted, and I was sober, you know, and I didn't do anything about it. Right. So there's maybe if I'd been drunk, I would have done something about it.
Sure.
But yeah, I've always leaned away from trying to do anything unless I'm just pushed. Like I like the idea of an escalation of force. I like to try to use minimum force necessary. There's definitely situations where you need to use force, but there's probably a way to do it the right way. There's a proper way of using force.
Sure. Well, right. And then like part of that is like what is the likelihood that you're actually going to encounter a situation where you actually would need to use force, right? And so we can sit here and like try to plan for the future and the time where I would need to use force, but that's a lot of I think that's a lot of pulling away from the taking away from the time I could be doing more useful things, right?
Yeah, being a good husband and a you know, doing those kinds of things, I think, are really important. But and then if you did have things where you wanted to in the future go and, you know, fight the war, I mean, you need to be building up a network of people that you trust. Like whether you're trying to do the good and like do things like make sure everyone has clean water, or whether you're trying to do things like, you know, defend the innocent, as Chris may want to do. It still depends on trying to be a good person and networking with other people that you trust. There's this need for organization skills and cooperation skills and a right and proper way of being, whether you're focused on doing the good or defending the innocent. I mean, defending the innocent is a good goal, but I don't think you can just go off and do that as a vigilante by yourself and have any amount of success that is going to be lasting.
Right. Yeah.
It's way down the road, though, in my opinion. I think there's a lot of more important things like being a good spouse and learning how to develop these kinds of relationships, trying to learn how to receive feedback or criticism and integrate it and try to become a better person. Like people aren't very good at that in my experience.
Dude, I'm the worst. Oh my God. I have a tendency to take things personally. So like if somebody usually and I've done a little bit of work around this actually, and recently I had a conversation with a guy, an old timer in AA, a long timer in AA, and he was talking about because something really upset me. Like somebody basically pulled my character into question, and it was a totally false scenario, and I took it really personally. I called the dude out in the group. I told him he was, I said, I said, you're an effing idiot. I said, anybody who believes what this guy says is an effing idiot and a moron, right? So I like called him out. This just happened like last week.
Yeah.
So like I after doing some work around this and talking about this with this other AA long timer, he's like, we came to the understanding that I have difficulty, or it seems like justice is high on my radar for things that are important,
Right.
and which can be good. It can be good. However, again, like I can like wrap myself up in that to the point where it becomes like I'm identifying with like like now I need to be the AA police, right?
Yeah.
And I'll call you out in the group to do that. Like that's not spiritual principle. That's not good. Like there's a time and place and there's a tact, and guys that do it well, there's a way to say things and there's a way and a time to say things. And I want to be more like that, right? Yeah. So I can actually engage with the tools with the spiritual tools of communication, so that we can actually both share the responsibilities of justice. Yeah. That's tough though, man, because it's so easy for somebody like me to be like, you know, and
I mean, the thing is there's so many things that we don't really learn. Like maybe you go to a public education system, maybe, and you had a community you were in, and nobody was ever really embodying the proper way of doing this, because like everyone you were ever around may have, I think it's very common that everyone you were around probably, when you tried to tell them that you thought they were wrong and made a mistake, that they would get defensive. Like, and this seems like a common pattern that I've noticed and that I'd picked up. And yeah, it's very easy to see why people would do that. And then it's also, you might even look at this person who was calling you out, and it's like, I was trying to make the point to Chris, is that there is a proper way to call out something. So that person probably could be trained in a better way of calling you out. Even though he was wrong, he could have done it in a different way and been wrong, but still have done it in a different way. And then we don't learn how to actually call people out. So there's some tools that I've been learning. Like, it's good to recognize our assumptions, right? So if I don't like, and it would have been good probably if that person would have, if I'm imagining, it sounds like that was a comment this person made when there was a lot of people around, or was it just you and this other person?
He made it privately to me.
He made it privately to you, and then it sounds, so then you kind of exploded and said something, so you broadcasted it out to a larger group of people.
Yeah. And part of that, I think too, was distrust of it just staying between him and I, so I beat him to the punch.
Yeah.
You know, like, and also it's, so I'll just tell you, I'll tell you the situation. Okay, so this is the situation. I was on this it was a meeting on Zoom, an AA meeting on Zoom, and so I got done sharing, and I clicked off to go look on, like when I got done with my share, I clicked out of the app and went into another app, but I was still listening to the meeting. And so the video shut down. And on the video, there was the picture of the circle hand game. Do you remember, like, I don't know if you ever played that?
Yes. Kind of like you can punch somebody if you see.
Yeah. Only when we played it, we never really punched each other. It was just more like, oh, I got you. You were looking, I got you.
I got you.
And so it was like this. It was and between my friend, a couple friends of mine in AA and I, will do that, like during the meeting, like, we'll be walking by each other in the meeting.
Try to make it fun.
Yeah, I got you. You know, and so that image was on it was on the image when I shut the video down like this, right? That the image was there.
Right.
Excuse me. And he messaged me and I didn't even think about it. But he messaged me and he says, what's with the political sign? What are you doing? I'm like, what are you talking about? I messaged him back, like, what are you talking about? He's like, your political sign there, that's that OK symbol or whatever, that's like white supremacy. I'm like, dude, what are you talking about? He's like, I don't care what you believe in your personal life, but leave the white power political shit at home. And I was like, dude, you're a fucking idiot. And I got pissed because, like, I've heard that this symbol has been hijacked as, and the media at large or whatever has said that that's what the symbol is.
Yeah.
But part of what bothered me about it was, it's like, I can't believe you would think that about me, first of all. Right. You know, like, I can't believe that you would actually think this about me. And I think that's what really bothered me.
Yeah.
And the other part of it was, like, I'm sick of this shit, man. I'm sick of people doing this crazy stuff. So I opened up the meeting. Nobody was talking. I didn't interrupt anybody. There's dead space. And I said, listen, for anybody in here who thinks that this symbol is like white supremacist or white power, it's not, and you're an idiot. And like, and if you think that it is, and you think that I would do that, you're an idiot, right? Like, this is bullshit. And then I got off the meeting because, like, I don't know, it just bothered a lot of things that bothered me.
Yeah, it's interesting that, like, these symbols, they carry meaning. Even the words we're using, we just so happen, you can hear my voice, you can see my face, so there's more meaning that's being sent. But when you're doing text and, like, whatever, symbols with your hands, symbols with flags, things like this, it's,
yeah,
I was like, it's a recurring theme in my life of not, I've never given symbols the power that other people have given them. Like, it's like it is idolatry, like, for that person to just assume that that the meaning that was in that person's mind is the same meaning that would be in your mind. That assumption, it's sad. It's a sad thing. I remember I was only like 4 or 5 years old when I learned this about human beings and the world we're in, that they just give so much power to symbols. Like, I actually started learning about idolatry on my own when I was like 4 or 5. But it's the worship of symbols. Like, that word worship, it's worth-ship. And so you have to be careful. And it's really good to ask people what they mean by the symbols they're using. And yeah, it's that I'm a father and I have kids now, so it's, you know, now I'm better at treating people as if we are children. So my kid, he'll argue with me about what a story is or a video, and, you know, I'm trying to explain the nuances and the different meanings of these symbols and words, but he's already got in his head that these symbols mean this. Like, he knows the truth and I'm wrong, and he's the smartest person in the world. So but that's what a lot of people are, and that's what a lot of people are doing. And it would be great if it wasn't that way, but that's what we have in this world.
Well, and if it wasn't that way, we wouldn't have much to talk about either, though. So, you know, part of it, looking back on it too, there's a couple things I noticed about myself, that how I set the ball rolling. First of all, I'm in an AA meeting, right? It should be fun, but to a degree, I shouldn't have clicked out of the app. I should be paying attention to the meeting fully. So part of the way I set the ball rolling by pulling my attention away from where it needed to be. If I hadn't have done that, the image wouldn't have popped up. Secondly, you know, like, he has a point that it's an outside issue, because in AA we have things like, we don't talk about outside issues. We don't talk about religious beliefs. We don't talk about political beliefs. We don't take money from the outside. We don't care about any of that stuff. We have a primary purpose. So part of it, I violated the primary purpose of the thing by playing Chad's game, right?
Yeah.
And so it's not terrible, but I can see how these things can lead one thing into the other. So
Right.
and it's like this whole idea about the calling out evil, or even complimenting somebody or asking a question. All these things are good. You could do all that, but there is a price to be paid for everything.
Yeah.
And so there's consequences, whether they're good or bad, or seemingly good or seemingly bad, is I like to more look at it.
Right.
So I could see where I was in the wrong there, and I definitely was in the wrong for calling him out in the group like that.
Yeah.
And I'm the one who pays the price for it too, because I'm putting myself in a position to where like I could be dwelling on that for the next week, and now I might not go back to that group, and now some other alcoholic might not have the opportunity to I might not have the opportunity to share something wise with him, right? Or even hear something wise from him. So
what if you went back and said, I decided to change my profile picture, and I wanted to apologize for my outburst, and I'll try to do better next time. And I appreciate it when people share their opinions, even when I disagree with them. I appreciate you giving me the feedback.
Well, now you're starting to sound like my sponsor. Because that's exactly, and that's what I'll inevitably end up doing.
It makes, like, I've done this thing and I've been doing it for a while. It makes you feel like the beta male, and then there's people who like to talk bad about the beta male, but I do think that there's some truth to this idea of the servant leader. You should stand up for the things that are most important, and you have to know why they're important. Like, I'm a software engineer and I work with a team of people, and I have become the beta male, except for those times when I think people are wrong and I have to put my foot down. But every other time, whenever someone has an opinion that I disagree with, I'm okay with, I'll let them do it their way. Except for those times when I think they're wrong and I know they're wrong, and I try to explain myself. And I've gotten very good at only putting my foot down when I'm right. So like at the end of the day, when I put my foot down, did I win the thing that I put my foot down on? And I'm getting better at that. So I feel like that's a better mode of operating as a leader, is being the servant leader instead of trying to be the alpha male. Like, even though we have a society that wants to hold up the alpha male and push down the beta male.
Yeah, no, I think that's right. I mean, that's what real leaders, like true leaders, are.
And I would want to surround myself with these types of beta males that are standing up when it's important, and they get good at standing up when it's important.
Yeah.
When they call me out when I'm wrong, right? Call me out when I'm wrong, stand up for it, but don't get too involved emotionally whenever it's just a difference of opinion on whether you like this color or that color or something like that.
Sure. I mean, that's the doing our best to live as humbly as we possibly can, I guess.
I've been practicing this for 3 years at this company I work with, where I basically work with people every day. We're all trying to solve a problem together, and I've been bad at it for two and a half years. I'm just now starting to get good at it. Like, I've always called myself like a leader in training, but I feel like I'm starting to become a better leader after years of practicing. So
Sure.
It's not something it's not something you can just say, oh, I've got it. There's a lot of baggage that we carry around, and where we want to respond and defend ourselves and fight for our idea, because it's like our baby, whatever it is. It's so precious, and it's really not. It's
For
good
sure.
to figure out what is precious and what isn't precious.
Well, and probably I would imagine as you do that more and more, as you move further down the road, as you have in the last 3 years, and it's like the last half year has been more successful for you in this way. Like, your opinions, they start to, or your contributions to the team, from a leader position, that when you do this standing up, they stack up. All right. Yeah. So you gain more
They,
more trust with these folks, and like, oh, well,
yeah.
Now I'm sure though at some point they'll be like more likely to say, hey, Gavin, what do you think about this?
Yeah. And I like, yeah, if I were, I would probably apologize to the one guy who reached out to you directly in private. You know, that's where I'm at now. Like, cause I've done things like that where I feel like I did something that I can't say it was good, and um, and I when people give me feedback that I don't like, I can always say, well, I'm glad you tried to participate. Like, I'm glad that you gave me feedback, because at least I know other people's perspective. Like, I can't read people's minds. And so if they share their perspective, even if it's wrong and I disagree, it's like, now I know that these are the people that I'm hanging out with, you know, even so it's nice not to, I don't know. I've been able to do this, and it seems to work out pretty good so far.
Yeah,
it's practical. That's all. It's practical.
Yeah, no, I like the practical. I like the pragmatic. I think that for me, that's really where the change happens. Is in the participating with life, you know, and I even like, I'll often, this is how I know that the calling out evil thing for me is kind of like, be careful, because like, I don't know what the boundary is until I'm hitting the edge, right? And I wouldn't have known that had I not, like, I did practice that. Like, once I found out, like, because for a while I would work in the program of Alcoholics Anonymous, and kind of like a meh, willy-nilly, pick what I want to do, pick what I don't want to do, leave out what I, you know. And when I did that, it was like I wasn't getting the freedom that I hoped to find, or I wasn't getting the freedom that I saw those folks over there having. And so then I caught something. I was like, oh, they're talking about this book of Alcoholics Anonymous, and they're talking about doing it this way. I'm like, okay. So then I started to interact with the book, and the more that the way they were talking about it, and I started to pick up some stuff and embody some things that this book is really talking about. Like, and it started to become very real to me. And like, then I started to become pretty rigid on these ideas. Like, no, it says to do it this way, and they call it this, and they say to do it this way and call it this for a reason. And then what would happen is I started to work with a lot of guys in sponsorship. I started sponsoring a lot of different guys, and then I started to go to meetings where they were doing things like I did not like. I didn't like how they were running the meeting. I didn't like how they were talking about recovery. I didn't like how they were talking about certain steps. And so I was really stuck in my rigid ways with this, because I found the answer, right? And so, and then I started to notice that my recovery world was getting smaller and smaller and smaller, because it becomes so rigid where I won't allow anybody else in there, right? And then I become like this person who's kind of insufferable to be around, because, you know, like, I'll tell you that, no, you're talking about the 10th step. It's not right. You're not saying it right. Meanwhile, I'm not actually doing it, right? And so, but I wouldn't have known that had I not hit the wall and did it poorly, right? And so I encourage people, like, go all out, man. Go all out and be the greatest big book thumper that you can become. Just do it. Because if you do that and you really have a desire to live well, like, it'll hurt a little bit, but you'll hit the wall and you'll find some good orientation, and you'll get on track, and you'll learn how to be more loving and tolerant over time. Like, I'll look at my sponsor and I think, damn, man, this guy is the same guy in every room he's in. Like, everywhere I see him, he's the same calm, loving, caring, tolerant man that I would love to be. And he's not telling people how they're doing it wrong. He's not even telling me how I'm doing it wrong, right? And I call him up with the problem, and I say, man, I'm shitting the bed here. I don't know what's going on. And he'll just laugh at me, man. And then we'll work through it together. and he's kind. He's not like, you need to do it like this and like this, because it wouldn't work anyways. But
that's awesome.
Yeah.
How do you, like, if you know people who have problems with alcohol, is like, is it just you, basically the people who begin doing this are people who choose to do it? Or like, is that basically how it starts, is you as an individual say, I need to do something about this and I'm going to try this AA?
Yeah. Well, so this is how it works today in today's world, versus what it was like. So the way that it's happened today is, people, for whatever reason, whether they're sent there by the court or their wife tells them that they're going to leave, or they just decide that they just can't drink anymore, right? One of those three ways, usually they'll make their way into an AA meeting, okay, and they'll say, I'm new. Or they might know, like, one of their friends, like, that one of their friends is sober or something, and they wonder how they did it. So they'll ask them, and they'll say, oh yeah, I did this. Or they'll go to like detox, and in detox, they'll be told there's some resources. You can go to AA, you can go to AODA, which are different. AODA is more medical, and AA is a program of itself on its own. And that AA was made about 87 years ago. It kind of just, it was like a total accident, really. I mean, it's divine, really. I think divinely inspired, all that stuff. So it's very young. But one thing that an alcoholic should never do is go out there and find people to tell who they think is alcoholic. That they're alcoholic and need AA. It would never work. It's they say things like, you can tell an alcoholic a lot, but you can't tell them much, right? Like he's not going to listen anyways. Like an alcoholic, it's the change, the desire for change must come from within. It has to.
Right. And isn't that like, that seems like the truth for anything, though? It's like,
yes,
it only comes from within, whatever it needs to be that you're wanting to change. So that's pretty. Yeah, I'm definitely curious. So it sounds like there's an AA book and that you've read about, and you've got probably maybe read a few books about it, and you're studied up on the history.
Oh yeah, yep. Yeah. It's like evangelism. I don't think it's the same concept. I think, it's like, to me, evangelistic work, the way that I understand people using that, it's like, it's as if somebody would say, so I'm an alcoholic, and I'm going to go out there and find some alcoholics who I think are alcoholics who need help, and I'm going to go tell them that, there's this AA program, and there's these steps, and they're going to, if you do this, it'll save your life, and like, you got to do this or you're going to die. It's like, that doesn't work. And so same thing with evangelism. I think the wisest of them sit back and meet them where they are, right? Whoever has questions, like, I think Paul's a wonderful example of this, PBK. He's like, oh man, I'm here, I'll listen, sure. And he's not telling them what they need to do or nothing like that. It wouldn't work.
I think when I first joined into the into the Bridges of Meaning Discord server, I probably was like, I'm sure I was at a spot where I wanted to go tell Paul Vanderklay what he's doing wrong. And then as I listened, I remember listening to like my first one, getting in the Q&A and wanting to say something, and then hearing someone who was more arrogant than me start speaking. I think it, and I'm like, and that's when I realized, like, Paul's actually, like, he has to deal with all these different kinds of individuals going through all these different kinds of struggles. And so it's like he and then, finally it occurred to me, he might be doing things better than I could do them. So that's like a really important thing for me, is to really, when I'm talking to someone, just remember that rule, that Jordan Peterson rule, that they may know something you don't know. And I guess another extension on that is you may not actually be as good as you think you are.
Oh yeah. And he's doing it for free.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm enjoying just being a part of what's happening. And I'm curious what's going to happen. And I have all kinds of ideas, and sometimes I get impatient, but I feel like I do feel like it's happening, and it might not be what I had imagined it's gonna happen, but it's I think there's a lot of opportunity for people to participate in new ways that are meaningful. And it sounds like AA, you guys are doing things on Zoom and using the internet, and like there's probably things that you guys are doing that other people could do. Like I know there's people who are bipolar, people are going through struggles that are unique, and it seems like there's a pattern that could be used to with technology to allow for this this kind of helping other people who have gone through a similar situation, right?
Yeah.
So I think it's really interesting to be able to use the internet to allow people to connect over vast amounts of distance, and maybe even eventually vast amounts of time, with the use of software to help people where they're at and with the struggles they're facing.
No doubt. Yeah. But I think that and I agree. I think there's a lot. It's exciting watching something, whatever this something is, happening. Yeah. I don't know what it is, and I've had some ideas. I know you're like probably the first person I talked to about this. I put a video up this morning about wanting to explore this idea of making a documentary, and just to maybe get a little clearer answer or picture as to what it is we're doing, but also to make a resource available to people who haven't yet made it here.
Yeah.
I don't know what it is that we're doing, but man, it's exciting. It feels good to be to feel like I'm on the team.
Yeah.
You know?
I hear Paul keep saying, you got to go find a church, but there's a part of me that's like, well, this is the closest thing to church that I've ever felt. And why can't there be a kind of church that is done on the internet? Like, why can't, for example, Paul be a preacher that is live streamed into people's homes, right? I mean, that's kind of what he is. So I'm enjoying it. I don't know if I need to seek out a church, and I'm not against it, but it seems like there's an opportunity to do church and do organization in this virtual space, and it be meaningful. Like I know there's a sentiment that it has to be, it can't just be virtual, but there are people who are, I'd say, like shy and in situations where they don't have a lot of time. There's a lot of reasons why people would avoid going to a brick and mortar church.
Yes. Yeah, there are. But then I think about, not everybody should just be online either, because like if that were the case, like who's going to be at Livingstone's church to help out those homeless people that are there?
Right.
Who's going to who's actually going to meet the drunk that comes to the meeting, in the brick and mortar meeting? Who's going to come there to meet that guy who's never been to a meeting, who's terrified, who's standing outside, who can't yet talk himself into walking in? Who's going to meet him outside while smoking a cigarette or something?
Right.
So the brick and mortar community is huge, and I think like I hope that's where this is headed. I hope that this is where it's headed, because like there's a lot we can do online. This is what's cool. Like, right, I don't even know where you live, like, but like
Alabama.
Right. Okay. So this is great. I love that we have this. But like in the book of Alcoholics Anonymous, it talks about this. It says, not all of us join the church or a religion, because also in AA they don't care about religious beliefs. They don't care about whatever. It's not our business.
Right.
What they do talk about is, as long as you have a God of your understanding that you understand, that you're willing to work with, and it ain't you, right? Good. But But what it does talk about in there, it says something along the lines of, not all of us join religious organizations, but many of us do. And that we find that when we do join these places, that we're able to bring like a light and a spirit into a church and to a pastor or to a rabbi or whomever, that helps to bring like an invigorating light there, like a spirit of excitement, like, because they're not going to meet somebody every day who's like really excited about spiritual principles and stuff. Like, let's go out there and let's be active, let's go out there and be useful. And so I hope that that's something. I think this is why I wanted, why I saw a potential for the things that I learned in AA to be brought into this space, because that's all AA is. AA is really just a pragmatic approach to spiritual living, step by step, where I get to be honest with myself and I clean up the past, and then I grow a relationship with whatever ineffable makes sense to me, and then I help other people. And so I thought I could bring something to the table, right? And without having to do spiritual surgery on other people, like allow them to have some tools that maybe, here's some tools I found. Go ahead and use them if you want, or don't, whatever. But I think that's what each of us are doing, right? Because I see you doing this. You have some, you found some tools, you're bringing them to the table, you're saying, look what I found. This seems to be working for me. And
then like, I'm like, I kind of see myself as I really, I try to embody like who I am and everything I do. And so like part of my religion is like what I do at work as well, like writing software. Like that's something that I've really put a lot of energy into and believe that it can be useful. So I like this idea that we have different backgrounds and limitations, strengths and weaknesses, and that there is a beautiful way for us to participate together. And this is why, you can't say something like we should all be calling out evil, because as maybe Chad can't do that yet. Right. And if you encourage him to do it, he might end up, cussing in a
causing more damage than necessary.
Well, and it might just be where you're at now, and maybe it won't be where you're at in 10, 20 years. But
right.
So we're all at different places, and then we all have different strengths and weaknesses. And so, yeah,
I might be able to do it well today, and then better tomorrow, and then the next day screw it all up again. That's more of what my pattern is.
Have a slip up.
Yeah, like I can be real kind and generous, and then have a bad day and just be like, screw you bastards, and then be right back on track.
Yeah. Have you ever like recorded something for your channel and just said, I'm not going to share that one?
Yeah, I've thrown out some of the outtakes, but then I decided I should just start keeping some of them, because I think they're funny, and it's okay to be right where I'm at and be real.
I've been recording myself for, I don't know, maybe 8 years, and like the things I've recorded, I've gone back and hidden them, and like, so there's unlisted things, and it's mostly because like I feel like where I'm at now, I can speak more confidently because I've already made so many mistakes. Like my ideas were so bad, or so undeveloped or immature, and maybe I was just like, I'm embarrassed of the things that I used to think, but I have those. Like I think that it would be nice for people at some point, like if I were to have success, in bringing about the good, I'd like to be able to say, well, look who I was back then,
Yeah.
But I don't necessarily, like, I know that I've created things that like I'm not proud of. They helped me as a person. They helped me become a better person. I can look at them and improve and transform, but it's not, I don't know if they would be helpful to share with the world.
Sure. Yeah. Yeah. Not everybody needs to see my dirty underwear. Even though they help me get by throughout the day, I don't need to go through and say, hey, check these out. What I mean?
You wear underwear? You wear underwear and brush your teeth?
Yeah. Oh yeah. Both. both of those are important.
I haven't been wearing underwear, and I've been brushing my teeth without toothpaste for the most part. But
really,
yeah,
interesting.
But
I shave without shaving cream. I just use water to do that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I've learned something about deodorant as well. You can use rubbing alcohol to get rid of that bacteria that creates the smells. So
interesting. Now that I don't think I would do that because might irritate my skin.
Yeah.
But that's cool that you do that.
Well, I know someone who does it, and then I was like, well, I'll give it a try. We'll see what happens. So that I'm kind of having fun and joking, but there is some there's something about like there's information like that might appear to be dirty underwear that could end up being useful. Maybe
Sure.
not now, but at some point for somebody that could be useful. We just don't know how to connect people who need the information with the information that someone is able to share through through experience. Like that's part of the hope I have for what we're doing, is we can figure out how to do that. And when I say we, I'm also including people beyond this corner of the internet as well.
Oh, of course. Yeah. I think whenever we're saying that, I think that's what we mean for real, because like, yeah, I mean, God, I think whatever God is, whatever it seems to be, is far, whatever, is far more, I don't know, it's mysterious in the wisdom there and how things can work. It's like, wow, I don't know, man. That's why I like when I read scripture, I'm like, but this contradicts with this. And it's like, but then on this day, it makes sense to me.
Yeah.
Now tomorrow, this doesn't make sense, but this makes sense. And so it's like, to me, from a pragmatic approach, these things are meant to meet me where I am, and I'm supposed to meet it where it's at. Maybe I need to stretch a little bit today so that this makes a little more sense, or this makes a lot of sense today, but maybe I don't know. But so like the whole thing is,
I mean, ideally it's helping you to behave properly. I mean, it's kind of like the story we tell ourselves, or the meaning we give to the story we tell ourselves that explains, why did my mom die? It's it can build you up or it can tear you down. And so the truth has something to do with the outcome of like, how did you interpret it, right?
Sure.
You get to choose how you interpret it to a degree. Sometimes if you don't, you were talking about objective reality. Sometimes you do an interpretation and then you end up like breaking a leg or something. So some things just don't work. But,
yeah. Did you happen to, you said you started listening to some of that audiobook that I sent to you?
Yes.
What did you think of that?
I got through I listened to about 30, 45 minutes of the audiobook, and I liked it. So sometimes when I'm listening to things that I like, that I agree with, I'm wondering, is there going to be anything here that's new like that? But yeah, that's the way I felt. It's like they're saying things that I feel like I know, right? And
sure,
it was similar when I was listening to Jordan Peterson, and so it did seem like a book that's useful and true in the sense that it's that it is useful.
Yeah.
I liked it.
Yeah, no, it's cool. I there's like really nobody in this corner of the internet that I know of that has actually read the book. So I ask people about it because I think, first of all, it's going to challenge, especially the Christians. It's gonna really challenge their beliefs, I think.
Right.
But I think, it's really helped me out a lot in the past. Now I don't really live by it or anything like that, but it is one of the books that opened up, that really opened me up to be able to. It was the beginning of a seed for me, I guess.
For me, I like my religion to make sense, and I like all the pieces to connect comprehensively, and make sense. And there is some limitations as a human, and this is true for me whether it's a complex software system, but it's the same for God and religion. And so I really do like I enjoy listening. I've been listening to these rabbis and talking about what Christians would call the Old Testament and what they would refer to as like Torah, I think. And they tend to make a lot of sense in general. I'm not a fan of rules and laws, as like it's just part of my nature. I don't want to have a law or a rule pushed on me that doesn't make sense, but the way that they think and talk about God, it often makes sense to me, compared to it, what I've read or learned in the New Testament. But what I have is I have have access to, I guess, Jacob and Joe or Joseph or Joseph, and
Yeah.
and these guys are willing to kind of explain their views and what they've learned, and they share resources. And so I've part of it is I sometimes I just need help in order to understand and learn things, and if I'm reading it on my own, it's very difficult. And I would just say part of that is I don't have great reading comprehension skills. That's my excuse.
Yeah.
And so that's part of the reason why I just have such a pragmatic, practical kind of approach to religion, where religion is your behavior and your actions, and you're seeking the thing that works. Because
I like the seeking. Yeah.
Yeah.
Because that to me is really, that's the name of the game, period.
Yeah.
I got to be a seeker.
Yeah.
And this is why I think I've always been unwilling to say, nope, that's exactly right, or that's exactly right, because that's insanity. Like,
if you're not a seeker, are you a founder? Like, what's an opposite of a seeker?
oh, yeah. I mean, well, the problem with finding is once I found it, I stopped looking.
Yeah.
And that's bad for somebody.
Seeking the perfect is kind of like a never-ending endeavor, that seeking the ideal perfect. So that's the cool thing about believing in an omniscient God that wants to have a relationship with you, is that there's no way I can comprehend what that beautiful goal is in its entirety, and I can't comprehend what the author wants to write.
Right.
And so there's a process of revelation, of having the author's God's will revealed, and my seeking of God's will, and it allows me to be in that seeking. It's a constant seeking of that ideal, omniscient, loving God at every moment, and then a practice of being able to be in that state of mind as much as possible. Practice, because I'm not perfect.
Right. I mean, I think it's written into the rules a bit that I'm not going to be able to even be. I'm not going to pull it off very well, anyways. Like, I get to do it a little and then fall back a little. Do it a little and fall back a little. Do it a little, good. So it's the, what do they say? The greatest I get to be is human.
There's some things though that seem mysterious, like at one point I got where if I were to drink alcohol, I would experience pain. Just small amounts of alcohol would give me headaches. It would give me indigestion. And so whereas before, when I was younger, I could drink alcohol and just take a liquor bottle and chug it and be just drunk without pain. At some point, it's almost like there was a switch. So there are some things that seem mysterious sometimes that allow for you to change out of kind of I would say, like, it. I like to interpret these things as a higher power encouraged me to change. So I've got another example. Like, I've got all these little things, and it's magical thinking, but I try to use it for my own benefit. And like, I've got potentially cavities that are forming up here, and when I eat sugar, I can feel them. They're just a little bit uncomfortable. And so now when I have that desire for a sweet treat, I think, maybe not. I rethink it, because I've done it enough times where I feel the pain, day after day and week after week, I can feel it intensifying slowly, where I'm using it as a means to change my diet, right, or change my lifestyle. And so I've done that throughout my life, of allowing everything in life, including the pains I experience, to be transformative toward the good. And it is a bit of magical thinking, but maybe the creator does that and operates in that way.
Yeah, I mean, you call it magical thinking, but I mean, it's sometimes, I think, the way that the world as we experience it is quite magical. I mean, I have no bones about that at all. I mean, sometimes these things are happening, synchronicities or coincidence, or like that, like what you're talking about. What's so unbelievable about that? I mean, to me, sometimes that stuff makes the most sense, and it's also like really enjoyable when it happens, because like, oh, this is great, like, let's see what happened. There was something that happened the other day. This happens all the time, by the way. I'm trying to think. That's why I can't remember what this particular thing was. But my wife and I, we have these things where, like, we can be in the same car or in the same space together, and like, we'll be thinking about the same thing, and it's not related to anything going on, but like, and it's like, wow, that's really weird. I was like just thinking about that, or so these types of things, I'm like, I'm really interested in those types of things, like even things like deja vu and things like this. Like, for me, I
think my point is that it was just a alternate view on the idea that we might be unable to transform to some degree.
Oh yeah.
And the alternate view is that maybe, that there is this, this God that can help and allow you to transform in ways you would have never thought possible, right? So yeah, that's the only thing. Don't don't lose hope. But obviously the world does have pain and suffering and tragedy and things. So and I am a person who has been delusional and naive, but it keeps me, it's almost a choice for me. And I try to help. I try to do good work. I try to be of service. And I guess that's all I can do.
Well, yeah. And so, like, for me, being an alcoholic was the greatest gift, because God, whatever it seemed to be, would take the thing that shined the brightest for me, that caught my attention the greatest, that allowed me to latch on to that, and that brought me to my knees and broke me and made me able to turn to him so that I can help the next guy who had that same experience. Yeah. So God took this thing called alcohol, the power of alcohol, to grab me and transform me so that I could submit to him and be useful to him and to my fellows. And it's the greatest thing that ever happened to me. And countless alcoholics who have recovered will say the same thing.
I'd like to think that my arrogance, some people I think have even called it narcissism. I've had at least 2 people who in my life who have called me a narcissist. And I think that arrogance that I've had, I think, has been transformative and led me toward eventually a more humble, kind of service-oriented approach. Yeah. So I do notice it. Like, I really do. I see the people who are arrogant, and I'm like, oh man, they got it. they got the thing that I'm prone to do as well. Like, it's kind of, so if you're saying you're like an alcoholic, I've got this thing where I have to keep my arrogance in check. I'm definitely susceptible to that.
Yeah, me too. Yeah. I tend to be a little selfish and self-centered, and
I tend to think that I'm like sometimes I'll end up thinking I'm smarter than I really am. So my son already has it. He thinks he's the smartest person in the world. So I had it when I was his age, and I've been dealing with it ever since.
Oh yeah. Well, I mean, you were reading stuff. What'd you say? You were reading about symbols at age 4 and 5. I mean,
No, that was just a kid on a playground showed me the middle finger, and
Oh,
he's like, go do that to the teacher. And I didn't know what it was, and I was thinking in my head, there's no way I'm going to get in trouble for this. And I got my lesson, and it was a revelation and then I started noticing, similarities, these patterns of people. There are these very like sacred symbols that people, they react strongly to those, whether it's the Confederate flag, the Nazi flag, or whether you can say there's all kinds of sentences that you can say, and I don't even want to say them. There's phrases that you can say that will trigger people.
yeah.
And they're just symbols, and they're just words. And I talked to my wife about this because I knew I was going to talk about calling out evil. And like in my immaturity, I always thought, well, words, I shouldn't get in trouble for words. Like I thought that for a long time, and I still feel that to a degree. But what's important is the intention behind the words.
Right.
You don't want to use the words. You might use them to play, and you might hurt people when you're playing. But if you're using them like to actually try to hurt people or sacrifice other people for yourself, that's the wrong intention.
Yeah.
Like you can have good intentions and use symbols and have people get mad at you and maybe even want to kill you if you use them the wrong way.
Yeah.
Which is scary. It's a scary world we're in.
Yeah.
You wear the red hat and you get bashed on the head,
Yeah, exactly. No, it's weird. It's a weird world, but it's beautiful in many ways, and just kind of like silly in many other. So
yeah.
So I want to. Do you got time where I could ask you a few more questions?
Yeah, let's do this. I would say maybe 10-15 more minutes max. That would be
okay.
Good.
All right, I got an experiment I'm running. I have a set of 13 questions that I ask people.
Okay.
And you can give me short answers if you like.
Okay.
All right. It's about this corner of the internet.
Great.
Excuse me. Number one, what do you hope to find?
There's a what did I hope to find and what do I hope to find now? I want to be able to participate in a way that is beneficial for me and others, and I would like it to end up being maximally beneficial, right? There's this idea of the proper way of being, so that that makes your life better, it makes the people around you better, and maybe it makes your neighborhood better, your city, and it can scale out and up across space and time. So that's what I'm hoping for, is a something that's moving in that direction of being able to participate. And so that means I will have to do some learning and growing. I know I'm not perfect.
Excellent. Okay. Number two, what's the most consistent question you have?
Oh, man. I wake up and I said, what should I do and why should I do it? I practice waking up and trying to just connect with God, and so it's like, what do you want me to do? Or if I start doing something out of a habit, it's like, is this what I'm supposed to be doing? So it's kind of like a generalized question to God to help me know whether what I'm doing is right, and if there's something else I should be doing. And it has to do with my attention and where my attention should be.
Perfect. Wonderful. Number three, what do you think this corner of the internet is doing, or is?
I think there's an amalgamation, like it might be the mispronunciation of the word, but there's a bunch of different people. So I think there are people who, I think it's around this topic of meaning. So this corner of the internet is trying to participate in a way. They're circling around meaning and a meaningful life, and some people tend to be saying, I think I have some answers, and some people tend to be looking for answers. But we're all kind of, we're either seeking answers or thinking we have answers, and it has to do with trying to contribute to this this goal of having a more meaningful life and participating in a more meaningful life.
Wonderful. That's great. Number 4, have you found some relief?
I've found growth. I have found relief. I have found relief through growth. I've increasingly become more humble, which can be hard to believe for some people, but I'm moving in that direction ever so slowly of becoming more humble. And every time I become more humble, it seems that I get more relief. Like if you can go up and down on as far as your highs and your lows, I feel like I'm getting up on a high, and as I become more humble, I feel like I'm getting a bigger high.
Wonderful. Okay.
My son's getting his millipede. He got a pet millipede.
Yeah. Cool.
Don't drop it, buddy. I'm going to shut the door behind you, okay?
Okay.
All right.
Wonderful. Number 5, what is God?
What is God? So God is omniscient and omnipresent. I believe God is omnipresent in this reality and outside this reality. I believe God is loving and good. And I'd put it at that. Those are the things that I believe God is. And God wants to have a relationship with you and is inviting. God is trying to, so God's not going to force you to have a relationship, but God is inviting you to have a relationship.
Perfect. Wonderful. Number 6, are we making a change?
I've experienced change in my life. And so on that level, and from the very most selfish level, yes. And I hear Paul Vanderklay saying that he is benefiting. And so, yes, I think the reports are saying that we are making a change. The people are reporting that they are seeing improvements in their life and seeing benefits.
Wonderful. I have 7 more questions. So number 7, if it all ended in 10 minutes from now, what would you wish to say?
And keep trying to have keep trying to transform toward the good. That's it. That's the last thing I have to say is just keep trying to transform toward the good.
Okay. What is heaven?
Heaven. I feel like I know there are states of mind that are heavenly. So part of me wants to say that because that's what I know. There are experiences that are heavenly that are available to us here. And then I like to imagine heaven on earth, like available to us as individuals and increasingly available to the world, especially as we all get better at having a relationship with God and doing good work in order to bring about a kind of heaven on earth. That's what I like to believe. I've got other ideas as well, but that's what I like to believe.
Okay. And conversely, what is hell?
So I think I went to hell in a dream, and it was a fiery place that was empty. I do like the Jewish idea that hell is this place where and I might not be getting it completely correct because I'm no expert, but I think it's a place where you, when you, so like there's an idea that there will be a resurrection. I'm okay with this idea. And I would say that the people will go through the hellfire in order to be purified such that they could be resurrected and brought into heaven on earth in the future as we know it. So I think that hellfire I like to think that hellfire is a purification process. It could feel like an eternity for someone who's done terrible things. But
Sure.
I think there might be a little bit of burning away for me for the things I've done, and I might deserve it. But I like to think that I've done some good things, and I would like to think that I'd have a place in heaven as well. You're breaking up a little bit. I don't know if it's my end or your end.
Okay. 10 up to.
I didn't hear you. Are you still there?
Oh, the question was, you there?
It seems like one of our internet connections is breaking up.
Yeah, I noticed that. I don't know if it's me or you. I'm on Wi-Fi, so I don't know.
Yeah, I'm on Wi-Fi too. It seems to be doing better now.
Yeah, I think Zoom is not liking our questions here. Okay, number 10 was what are you up to?
Husband, father, software engineer. That's what I do the most. I'm also I'm trying to stay healthy. That's what I'm trying to do, and I'm trying to I'm trying to maintain the fruit of the Holy Spirit in my relationships. That's what I'm trying to do.
Okay. Good. Okay, number 11. If you could say something to your enemy or those opposed to you, what would it be?
Why? I'd just like to know, yeah, if people were opposed to me, I'd like to know why.
Okay.
Tell me why I'm wrong. Try to tell me why I'm wrong and why and what I could do to become better. So if you're my enemy, then I'm assuming you think I'm making a big mistake, and I would appreciate it if you let me know what you think I'm mistaken about.
I like it. That's a good one. Number 12. How are you failing?
How am I failing? That's always the hard part because our failures are kind of hidden from us often. For me, if they weren't hidden, I would do something about them if I could, but there are things about me where I'm failing. I'm not the best communicator. Sometimes I don't speak to the audience very well. I could be more playful, not so serious all the time. That's one of the reasons I enjoy you. You make me laugh and smile sometimes, and you're fun. So
thanks for that.
I'm not good at that.
Okay,
part. I'm not.
We got one last question. Oh yeah, you are. No, I think you are. I think you're fun. I like listening to the stuff I have listened to. I find that that's fun. So okay, so the last question is question number 13. You have one wish. What do you do with it?
One wish. The thing that I would want, I would want to be able. I've actually told my family and my wife this. I would want to be able to just freeze time for everyone, such that I could go about doing things like doing work and learning. Like I don't feel like I have enough time to go do all the things that I could be doing. Like I think I could, if I could just move around at the speed of light and do everything I wanted to do, that would I could be of more help and I could learn more. I'm kind of slow, so by allowing everybody else to slow down, I could be as fast as I wish I was.
Cool. Well, that's a fun wish.
I need more time.
Well, that's
I
the
wish I had
last
more
of my
time.
questions. I just wrote these like, yeah. I wrote these a couple weeks ago. It just kind of like, I sat down and they all came to me in about 2 minutes. So
those are good.
I thought that
yeah, I would thought about the one where you, it's like, what do you want this, where do you want this thing to go? I think that was a question I'd thought about, and I'm glad you have it in your list.
Yeah. Well, I hope to see you in the future, my friend, and we'll watch more of what you're doing. And I'm looking forward to that and seeing where all this heads. And I really appreciate you taking the time out of your busy day to speak with me and share your thoughts with me. I hope to do it again soon.
I enjoyed having this conversation with you, Chad. Thank you.
Man. Well, have a good day.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.